Welcome everyone to Microsoft Dynamics Weekly. I'm your host, Noah Mosley, and a little bit different format today. Whereas I usually post these podcasts early Monday mornings, I'm rolling these out before Monday as we have a conference coming up next week in Chicago for Dynamics User Group. It's their big annual DynamicsCon conference, and the next several podcasts I'm releasing feature speakers from that conference. For this next discussion, I have John Kirsch with us. John is with sa.Global. Morning, John. How are you doing today?
Morning, Noah. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Awesome. The audio sounds great there. You have a little busy schedule coming up next week. I've got your first session on the screen there. You're starting off Monday. I'm sorry, not Monday. You're starting off Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah,
So I have your first one on Wednesday, 1 o'clock, BC from GP, user experience and questions.
yeah. The 3 sessions, nice that they spread them out over 3 days for me here. So
It's
my first
nice.
session, yeah, the first session here, BC to GP, was doing a lot of this right now, basically. So I'm sharing some of the details. It's always helpful to kind of hear what other companies and people are going through and doing. So a lot of this is a lot of the discussion we're having with our existing GP clients as they're moving or even about to move or going to move or thinking about moving to BC. So we're essentially, starting out conducting a lot of kind of interviews and discovery sessions and talking to everybody and making sure, needs are met and everything like that, all the way to the projects of implementing VC. And so just sharing some of those details, some of the feedback, what people are saying. Sometimes it's what we expect, and other times it's not. So yeah, a lot of good information that we're gathering and just kind of compiling that and sharing a bit of it.
And I see that it's tagged for all levels, so any level of user there. Focusing on the GP people looking at going to VC. You have a feel for the target audience that you have bringing in, like accountants, or you're bringing in the team that handles the migration, IT people, accountants, a good mix of the audience there?
Yeah, I would say yes. It's going to touch on a lot of different things, and that's the way some of those discovery sessions go. So we end up, kind of finding out what's important to each individual company. So in addition to just some of that feedback of what people are looking for, I'm going to touch on some of those topics that are being discussed. So I don't have the slides in front of me right now, but off of memory, we're talking about things like security that comes up, reporting, some of the interfaces, and so some of the things that people are really looking for out of BC, whether that's continuing something that GP does really well, or maybe something that they want to do differently. So it really is a pretty broad range of information. I think it's really helpful for those that are considering moving or kind of starting that process of moving. That it's probably either going to validate or just validate the fact that whatever their concerns or thoughts are, it's very important to talk about those as they're planning to make that project happen.
Okay, good. I know that we are a little short on time today, so I'm going to jump to Thursday, talk about that session. We can always come back to this one, though, okay, if you have time at the end.
Sure.
So Thursday on the 15th, that's next week, everybody. So you have at 9:45 that morning, GP life hacks, tips and tricks for every user. And you're co-presenting that with Sean Dorward. And I did interview Sean yesterday, so he talked a little bit about this one. He's actually the person that said, hey, you should bring John in as well. So he's already talked about this once, but we'd love to have your take on it as far as what you'll be having in this session with everybody on Thursday.
Yeah, so teaming up with Sean, most that have gone to some of the conferences probably recognize the GP life hacks at some point, with Excel or GP or BC now, Sean, or Copilot that Sean's presenting on. So happy to team up with Sean and essentially present tips and tricks here for GP. So we used Sean's kind of branding with this here with life hacks, but we've done several different varieties of these, both individually and together here over time. So this is kind of a blend of some of Sean's and some of mine favorite tips and tricks, and just trying to really use GP most efficiently. This is a quick hitter as far as a presentation, right? So we cover a lot of topics very quickly, and it typically I've gone to some and watched Sean, and so we're kind of following that format here, and I've inserted some of my favorites in here, but it inevitably you will pick up one, two, 10, whatever that is, but you'll pick up several tips that are hopefully there to just save you a little bit of time or make life easier, make it more enjoyable to use the program. So we're going to throw a lot at everybody in 60 minutes there.
It's awesome. That's great to hear that people love that. People love the tips and tricks presentations there. So I'm sure you guys have a lot of great stuff, everybody, during that 1 hour session. It'll go by fast, I'm sure.
Yeah. And, I like to just keep it lighthearted and, have a little fun and, nice and easy session. So it's not too deep of a dive if you need a little break from maybe a deeper dive one, but still learning some things and picking up some ways to make things easier. It's a great session.
Good, awesome. And then on Friday, the last day of DynamicsCon, on the 16th, you're presenting by yourself there that morning 10:15. It is using GP without opening the program. So love to hear how that's going. I'll go ahead and open up the view session details with you here. But without even opening GP, what have you got for the session there?
Yeah, and this one, we submit our ideas. I think way back in the fall, early part of the fall, it opens up, and I submitted this, and I would say even over the last 6+ months since that opened up and submitted, and now this has probably evolved a little bit as I've been building the session here. So the original concept, which is definitely in here, is just that I do so much right now with GP clients and using GP, not the core program essentially. So we're going to touch on things like Power Apps and some ISV solutions, all the different tools that are kind of out there and using GP and not in the main window here because I feel like I spend so much time doing that. So part of it is just to give people ideas what's out there, what can we do with the system, what tools are out there too on the ISV side of things. So that's really the core part of this. What I would also say, kind of going back to that first session or tying that all together, where for me it's evolved a little bit. I think the session was submitted before kind of the GP end of life announcement for support, and
Mm-hmm.
and really our conversations with our clients just ramping up exponentially here with everybody now over the last 6 months is part of this is I've kind of weaved that into this session now too, in terms of for our clients we're planning to move to BC from GP. So how can we enhance GP? A lot of times with those ISVs that are not in that core program or the again Power Apps or custom kind of programs or apps or things that are being used and not inside of the core program, but we can also start to use those or plan to use ones that work with both programs and tie that all together to make that move even more smooth and simple and everything that can go with that. So this also is going to kind of talk about how do you keep that mindset of whether that's 6 months from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, but you can still kind of tie in that future planning into the current enhancements that are being done here. So weaving that all together in 60 minutes, there'll be a lot to cover in that one as well.
Awesome. And when you do this with the GP clients, these are end users typically, and these are people in the GL and fixed assets, payroll. But is it a good mix of all those different areas and more?
Yeah, I mean, I cover when I think about what I'm covering in this session and kind of the inspiration for it, if you will, some of the interactions that have happened. It is pretty broad. Inevitably we'll have some of the like system admin type people in those discussions and kind of overseeing that. But very often, when we start talking about maybe a Power App that's most of them are kind of smaller that are just kind of filling a need, or an ISV solution, obviously for functionality and usage. Those are usually coming from people that are using the program, right? They have an idea or they have a,
Mm-hmm.
issue with getting things to work right. And so, these ideas a lot of times are, end users using those specific areas. So, I see it a lot. I do a lot in the distribution area. So, I see a number of things where we fill a lot of things with little power apps in that area. But certainly, AP and financial side of things, APAR as well. Um, there's nothing. There are some specific examples, I guess, in the session, but there's the idea again with this is to open the doors of how do we continue to enhance and use GP the most efficient way possible, and then again weaving in how do we keep using that in the future too, kind of plan to make it usable as we move to BC and on.
Gotcha. Great. So in the last couple of minutes we've got for your time here, are you going to be there Tuesday for the partner marketing event?
I am flying in on Tuesday, so I will. I'll not be at the marketing event. I'll be getting there sometime during the day, and then there kind of for the evening and beyond.
Okay. And you have a booth in the expo hall.
We do have a booth. I should know the number, and I should have been prepared with it. I don't want to say the
We can
wrong
always
ones.
we can always add it in the comments after the post comes out.
Sure. Yeah, we
So,
do have our booth, but I didn't have that handy here right now, so.
okay, no worries. We'll find out and get it in the comments there for the post there. We'll post these on LinkedIn, and the recordings actually are hosted on YouTube for us. We've got your contact information on here for the LinkedIn connection. So is that the best way for everybody who's going to the conference to connect with you? LinkedIn?
Yeah. Um, yeah, and I just looked at the booth real quick, so I had it right, but I didn't want to say it. So it is 409. So stop by and see us
Yep.
at 409 on the booth. Certainly can LinkedIn. I don't check that quite as often as probably email. So my email address is pretty simple, johnk at sa.Global.com. So
Okay.
that is probably the quicker way. But I mean, I try to go into LinkedIn once a day or so and see what's in there. So I'm pretty good about that too. So either one, yeah, is perfectly good. I was happy to kind of follow up and chat about these sessions and share slides if we can't get them easily through the app. So yeah, I'm happy to connect.
And if people want to meet with you in Chicago, like Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, outside of your sessions, probably the booth is where you're going to do that in Expo.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to be at the booth most of the open times. Mostly when not the sessions are going on. I like to go and check out some of the other sessions as well. Always a good chance to see those. But yeah, I'll be at there during the kind of open expo times for the most part. But again, a message even through the conference app. I've been trying to learn that and use that a bit too. So yeah,
Yes.
any of those options, message me and we can try to set something up.
Okay, awesome, good deal. So just a quick little recap there. Wednesday, the 14th, you've got 1 o'clock that afternoon for BC from GP, user experience and questions. On Thursday, the 15th, you have at 9:45 that morning, GP life hacks, tips and tricks for every user. That's you and Sean presenting that 1 hour session. And then you're wrapping up the week on Friday, the 16th 10:15 in the morning using GP without opening the program. So, and you've got an Expo Hall booth number 409. So, all right, John, I really appreciate you joining us today. I'm sure everybody's looking forward to your sessions next week. Um, Anything you want to add before we wrap up this recording here?
Not too much else. Yeah, thanks, Noah, for connecting and sharing some of this information, passing along to everybody. Look forward to seeing you and everybody else next week. So it'll be should be good weather, it looks like. So I'm excited to be down in Chicago.
Good deal. All right, everybody, look for John in Chicago. Go see his session, see him in the expo hall, and everybody travel safe. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
That wraps up this podcast for Dynamics Weekly. I'm glad you could join me. As always, send me your comments. Good and bad comments are welcomed, but constructive comments are preferred. Likes, shares, and reposts are appreciated. Subscribes are awesome as well. You can subscribe to Dynamics Weekly, the newsletter, on LinkedIn, and you can subscribe to the podcast directly on YouTube. Thank you, and have a great week in Chicago at DynamicsCon.